50 Cent and Eminem ain't just a mentor and his protege. These two move like blood brothers in the rap game. But don't get it twisted. They're also two of the most cutthroat rappers to ever touch a mic. Whether they strike solo or team up, the result is pure destruction. Careers end, egos get shattered, and rivals end up humiliated for the world to see. Just look at the damage they've caused. Jeru's entire empire got torched so bad that even Ja himself had to admit he lost. And let's not forget Benzino, who tried to square up with Eminem only to end up breaking down in tears. When 50 and Mim smell weakness, they don't let up. They enjoy the chaos, and the rap game has never been the same because of it. So let's rewind and break down how some unlucky rappers found themselves on the wrong end of their wrath. First up, Ja Rule. This is where the storm really began. According to 50, the beef sparked after his boy Troy robbed Ja, an incident that Ja never got over. Later, when 50 and Ja crossed paths at a club, 50 actually tried to squash it, but Ja wasn't having it. He was convinced 50 had something to do with the robbery, and from that point on, there was no going back. But here's the twist. Other sources claimed the robbery wasn't even the root of the tension. Word on the street is that 50 felt disrespected at a murder in video shoot for Murder for Life. He got iced out, treated like a nobody, and that humiliation lit the fuse. Once 50 felt played, it was game over. By 1999, he dropped Life's on the Line, a diss track aimed straight at J. Rule and the whole Murder Inc. camp. Meanwhile, Ja Rule's career was blasting off. His debut album, Veni Vedi Vedi, was flying off shelves selling millions, and he looked untouchable at the top of the charts. By 2000, the smoke between 50 and Ja wasn't just music. It was spilling into real life. The two of them ended up booked at the same nightclub in Atlanta. And what should have been just another performance turned into straight chaos. Words got heated, the insults flew, and before anyone knew it, fists were flying. This wasn't rap beef on wax anymore. It was personal. And everybody in that club felt the tension explode. But the drama didn't stop there. Later that same year, things took an even darker turn. 50 was in New York at the legendary Hit Factory studio, just trying to record when J. Rule and his Murder Incense crew pulled up uninvited. The story goes that Ja got word 50 was in the building, and instead of ignoring it, he stormed the place with backup. What followed was ugly. Rapper Blackchild from Murder Inc. ended up stabbing 50 during the confrontation. That night officially locked the beef in blood. From that point on, they weren't just rivals. They were sworn enemies, and the streets knew it. From 1999 to 2002, the hostility only got worse. Then in 2002, 50 dropped Wangster. The track was rumored to be throwing shade at Ja. And whether or not that was the case, it blew up. The song became 50's breakout smash, climbing to number 13 on the Billboard charts and putting his name on everybody's radar. Suddenly, the underdog wasn't just making noise. He was a serious threat to Ja's throne. That's when Murder Inc. tried to flip the narrative. Irv Gotti, the powerhouse behind the label, accused 50 of filing an order of protection against him and Ja, basically painting 50 as soft in the street code. But 50 shot those claims down immediately, calling it a straight-up lie. Later, the truth surfaced. Yes, an order of protection existed, but it wasn't 50 who filed it. The cops put it in place automatically after the stabbing incident. At the time, 50's reputation came out clean. His image as a fearless hustler stayed intact. Not long after the studio incident, 50 Cent got shot, and just like that, he was wiped off the scene. The industry blacklisted him completely. Labels wanted nothing to do with his name, and it got so bad that he had to leave New York altogether, heading all the way to Canada just to find a studio willing to let him record. With 50 out of the picture, Ja Rule and Murder Inc. were running wild. Their songs were everywhere, and to them, 50 was done, buried for good. Even when his comeback mixtape started making the rounds, Ja didn't bother paying attention. He thought the threat was gone. But then came the twist. In 2002, 50's lawyers passed a copy of his mixtape, Guess Who's Back, to Eminem's manager, Paul Rosenberg. When M heard it, he was blown away. The raw energy was undeniable. Without hesitation, Eminem flew 50 to LA to meet him and Dr. Dre, and that meeting changed hip-hop forever. By the end of it, 50 Cent had locked in a $1 million deal with Shady Records and Intercope, officially joining forces with M and Dre. Once 50 linked up with Eminem and Dr. Dre, he wasn't just a hungry rapper from Queens anymore. He had two of the biggest forces in hip-hop guiding him. And Ja Rule, he was furious. To him, Eminem signing 50 wasn't business. It was betrayal. And that's when things got real nasty. Ja Rule made the ultimate mistake. He dragged Eminem's daughter into the beef. And if there's one rule everybody knows, it's that you never bring up Haley. That's the one line M refuses to let slide. His response was ruthless. He dropped Haley's Revenge, putting Jaw on full blast and even featuring a conversation with his daughter on the track. But M didn't stop there. He teamed up with 50 for a savage diss track, their version of Hail Mary. They didn't just diss Ja Rule, they mocked him, clowning him for copying Tupac and flat out telling him he'd never live up to Pac's legacy. It was brutal, and the whole industry watched Ja's image crumble. By 2004, Eminem tried to call it quits with Toy Soldiers, admitting he was tired of the drama, but even then, he couldn't fully let go. Fast forward to 2018. On his album Kamikaze, M slid in another jab at Ja, proving he still hadn't forgotten. As for Ya, his career never bounced back. And he wasn't the only one who regretted stepping into the ring with M and 50. Benzino found that out the hard way, too. Eminem's war with Benzino started over something petty. A review in the Source magazine, which just so happened to be co-owned by Benzino himself. When M dropped the Eminem Show in 2002, the magazine gave it 4 mics out of 5. For most rappers, that's a win. But not for him. He felt it was a slap in the face. In his mind, the reason he'd never get a perfect 5 wasn't about the music. It was about his skin color, and he blamed the Source and Benzino for the bias. M didn't bite his tongue either. He blasted the magazine in interviews and iced Benzino out completely. One time in Puerto Rico, while promoting 8 Mile, Benzino tried to get an interview backstage. But M shut him down cold. Later, Benzino admitted the snub stung. But instead of letting it go, he fired back the only way he knew how, with a disc freestyle aimed straight at Eminem. By the end of 2002, Benzino turned the heat up. He dropped Pull Your Skirt Up, going directly at M's neck, and followed it with another disc. I don't want to. He thought he was making a statement, but all he really did was wake up a monster. Because at that point, Eminem was done playing polite. He unloaded with some of the most vicious diss tracks of his career. Invasion, The Sauce, and The Brutal Nail in the Coffin. On those records, M didn't just attack Benzino's bars. He tore his whole image apart. He mocked his weak rapping, clowned him for being too old for the game, exposed his fake gangster act, and even dragged his shady business moves into the spotlight. Benzino wasn't about to take Eminem shots lying down. He clapped back with Die Another Day and even dropped a parody of Lose Yourself called Better Lose Yourself. But then he made the biggest mistake of his career. He crossed the line by threatening Eminem and his daughter Haley. That move destroyed him. The entire hip-hop community turned its back on Benzino. Radio stations blacklisted his tracks. Fans dragged him nonstop. And his career started to collapse right in front of him. But instead of pulling back, he pushed harder. With his music ignored, he turned the Source into his personal weapon, just running smear campaigns, publishing hit pieces, and trying to drag Eminem's name through the mud in print. M wasn't fazed. He fired back with Go to Sleep, another savage diss track that didn't just torch Benzino. Ja Rule caught strays too. And just to twist the knife, M landed the cover of DXL magazine, the biggest rival to the Source. That move sparked an all-out magazine war, with Benzino's credibility taking even more hits. Still, Benzino refused to quit. He kept dropping weak shots like Falling Down, targeting both Eminem and 50 Cent. And since Ja Rule was already deep in a war with 50, Benzino figured why not link up. So he and Ja teamed up, trying to double the firepower, releasing diss tracks like Untouchable. By 2003, Benzino thought he had the ultimate weapon to end Eminem once and for all. He dug up an old M track from his teenage years called Foolish Pride, where M used racial slurs, wasting no time. Benzino plastered the lyrics all over the Source and even leaked the track on the magazine's website. He thought he had M cornered with no way out. But M flipped the script. He immediately owned up to it, apologized, and took full responsibility. Fans saw the honesty, forgave him, and moved on. By then, it didn't even matter. The hip-hop world had already crowned Eminem the clear winner of the feud. Years later, Benzino would end up apologizing. But the damage was done. And instead of the beef fading, M kept sprinkling in jabs whenever he felt like it. Even in recent years, he's taken shots not just at Benzino, but at Benzino's daughter, Koile, too. Eventually, the weight of it all broke Benzino down. On Drink Champs, he admitted through tears that the feud had haunted him for more than 2 decades. He even said it damaged his bond with his daughter, claiming she probably felt forced to side with him since the entire world seemed to be against her dad. It was a public moment of defeat that showed just how deep M's words cut. But Benzino wasn't the only one who got dismantled. Another casualty was The Game in August 2023, when Eminem linked up with Easel for the track Realist. It was supposed to be Ez's big debut moment. Instead, M stole the spotlight once again, unloading direct shots at the game and proving his venom hadn't dulled with time. One of the coldest bars from Eminem's verse on Realist went, "All the envious rappers I torch if I'm on a joint with them, and their only retort is, I'm not played in the clubs. Put a cork in it. Only reason they still play your clubs, because you still perform in them." Brutal. That was M's direct response to the game shot where he claimed M's music never gets spun in clubs. A jab he first threw in his 10-minute diss track, The Black Slim Shady. And M made sure to flip that insult right back in his face. But here's the thing. This feud didn't just appear out of nowhere. It actually traces back years before the game ever dissed Eminem. It all started with 50 Cent and Gunit. Back when the game was first breaking through, Dr. Dre saw his potential and signed him. Instead of pushing him purely as a solo act, Dre thought it would be a power move to insert him into Gunit, the rap crew already dominating under 50's leadership. Some thought it was genius, a cosign that could launch the game to new heights. Others whispered he was just riding 50's wave. Either way, being in Gunit instantly put him in the same circle as two giants 50 Cent and Eminem, and the game capitalized. In 2005, he dropped his debut album, The Documentary, and it exploded. Tracks like How We Do and Hate It or Love It became massive hits, proving the game had the pen, the voice, and the charisma to stand on his own. Even though the game's career was exploding, things behind the curtain were far from smooth. Tension with 50 Cent had already started bubbling, and one of the first signs came during the filming of the Hate It or Love It video. Word spread that 50 straight up refused to sit next to the game in the car scene. A small detail that sparked big rumors that all was not well inside Gunit. Then came the real breaking point. At the time, 50 was kneed in beefs with Nas, Fat Joe, and Jadakiss. And he expected the game to stand beside him, no questions asked. But the game went public saying he had no issue with any of them to 50. That was straight betrayal. The same day he hit Power 105, won with Ed Lover, and officially kicked the game out of Gunit live on air. And he didn't stop there. Hours later, 50 pulled up to Hot 97 with Funkmaster Flex, unloading even more grievances about the game. But the game was still in New York, and when word got back to him, he wasn't about to just let it slide. He rounded up a crew of gang members and stormed a Hot 97. That's when all hell broke loose. Shots rang out between the game squad and 50's entourage. In the chaos, one of the game's men got hit in the leg, turning the beef from music into real street warfare. While chaos was breaking out at Hot 97, 50 Cent quietly slipped out the back door, and just days later, fans were stunned. 50 and the game showed up together, smiling, shaking hands, and even donating money to the Boys Choir of Harlem. They swore the beef was dead, but everybody knew it wouldn't last. By Summer Jam 2005, the game was back on stage throwing shots at 50 and the rest of Gunit. At one point, he even ripped off his Gunit chain and hurled it into the crowd, a public declaration that he was officially done with them. From there, the diss track started flying nonstop. But as his war with 50 kept raging, the game sparked another feud. This time with Eminem himself. In 2022, he dropped The Black Slim Shady, a 10-minute disc aimed squarely at M. He didn't hold back either, dragging 50 Dr. Dre, and even mentioning Eminem's daughter in the process. Some praised it as gutsy, saying the game was one of the only rappers bold enough to challenge M, but many others called it corny and desperate, a clout-chasing move to stay in the headlines. And the timing made it worse. Just months earlier, the 2022 Super Bowl halftime show, headlined by Dr. Dre with Snoop Dogg, Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige, 50 Cent, and Eminem, went down in history. But the game, he wasn't invited despite his West Coast legacy and his Dre connection. The game later admitted that being left out of the Super Bowl halftime show really stung. On the I Am Athlete podcast, he confessed he felt blackballed, saying the industry saw him as too risky. By March 2022, his frustration spilled over on Drink Champs. He made headlines with some wild claims, saying Kanye West had done more for his career than Dr. Dre ever did, and even declaring he was a better rapper than Eminem. He went so far as to challenge M to a Vooz battle, daring him to step up. But M didn't say a word. Fans joke that the game should count his blessings, because if Eminem had actually responded, it could have been career suicide. And if you think M and 50 only reserve their fire for fellow rappers, think again. Even dangerous figures like Suge Knight found out the hard way that they weren't scared of anybody. The tension traced back to Dr. Dre's split from Death Row Records when Dre signed Eminem, then later brought 50 into the fold. The bad blood with Suge carried over. Suddenly, M and 50 weren't just superstars. They were inheriting Dre's beef with one of the most feared men in hip-hop history. And Suge being Suge, he wasn't letting it slide. He tried pressing them multiple times. One infamous moment came during the shoot for 50s in Dog CL Club video. Out of nowhere, someone shouted, "Suge Knight is here!" And chaos erupted. Suge rolled up with about 30 men, reportedly members of a Mexican gang, ready to cause trouble. It was classic Suge pulling up deep with a whole squad, trying to intimidate everybody on set. That was his signature move. Show up unannounced, flex his muscle, and remind the industry he was still a threat. But true to form, Eminem and 50 didn't flinch. They stood their ground. And that wasn't the only time Suge tried to rattle M take the 2001 Source Awards, a night that could have turned deadly. Eminem was there performing with D12, and the energy in the building was already tense. To make things worse, security rules forced bodyguards to sit away from the artists. That left M wide open, and Suge's crew didn't waste a second. According to M's former bodyguard, Big Naz, the setup was obvious. M suddenly found himself surrounded by a group of men in red shirts, a clear signal they were repping Bloods. A gang Suge was deeply tied to. Naz clocked what was happening, sprinted across the venue, and pulled him out before things exploded. To him, it was clear Suge had sent them. But M never went public blasting Suge. In his 2004 track Like Toy Soldiers, he explained why. Dr. Dre personally told him to steer clear. Dre knew how dangerous Suge was, and he didn't want M dragged into that war. So even though M had plenty to say, he bit his tongue and stayed quiet. But fast forward to early 2025 and the game changed. Out of nowhere, an unreleased Eminem disc from the mid-200s leaked, and it shook the entire hip-hop world. The leaked track titled Smack You was so ruthless that fans instantly started debating what could have happened if Eminem had actually dropped it back in the day. Some argued it might have put his life in real danger, while others called it one of the coldest diss tracks ever written. On the record, M went straight for Ja Rule's neck, mocking his height, tearing into his parenting, and dismantling his image bar by bar. But then he did the unthinkable. He turned his fire on Suge Knight, one of the most feared men in hip-hop. M flat out accused Suge of being tied to the deaths of Tupac and Biggie, a claim bold enough to shake the entire culture. The fact that Eminem was willing to record something that direct, aimed at one of the most dangerous figures in the game, proves exactly what we've always known. M has never been scared to stand his ground, no matter who was in front of him. So what do you think? Should Eminem have released Smack You back then, or was it too risky to ever see the light of day? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more breakdowns just like this.